The UK's economy showed record growth of 15.5% in the third quarter, but it's well below pre-pandemic levels. There are concerns that the economy will shrink further when the impact of the COVID-19 lockdowns are taken into account. Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, says he's optimistic but warned of a difficult winter ahead.
I think today's figures show that the economy was recovering over the summer, but that recovery slowed coming into the autumn. It's likely that slowdown continued, given the necessary restrictions we've had to put in place more recently to control the spread of the virus. But looking forward, I think there are reasons to be cautiously optimistic, with improvements in mass testing and welcome news on vaccines. But also on the economic side, my priority has always been to protect as many jobs as possible, which is why we extended the furlough scheme all the way through to March, knowing there was a difficult winter ahead.
Let's cross over to our correspondent in London, Ty Genwright. Ty, good evening to you. There's no denying that these are impressive figures when you look at the shape of that rebound, but there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's a record quarter for growth, 15.5%, but put into context, it also follows a record slump in growth and a much bigger slump in the region of 19.8%, which was recorded between April and May, which is when, of course, the country was in its full lockdown. And let's unpack more the context of all this. We're talking here about the period from July to September, when the economy was reopening. Bars and restaurants were getting back on their feet. There was even a government scheme to encourage people to get out and eat in restaurants once again. But it doesn't tell the whole story of today, because of course subsequent to all of this we've seen restrictions tightening once again. The entirety of England is back in lockdown once again, and it is quite telling that when you break out the figures just for September of the third quarter of the year, you can see that the pace of recovery is slowing down. September recorded growth of just 1.1%, and that was lower than many economic forecasters had expected.
With that second lockdown that you're mentioning there for England, it means that shops are closed, restaurants have got a limited capacity in which to serve. There's also the prospect of a no-deal Brexit on the horizon. Is there a sense that potentially the worst could be yet to come?
There is always that threat, Ollie. It's worth pointing out, England has been in lockdown now for just over a week. And of course, England is the heavyweight within the UK when it comes to economic performance. But of course, restrictions have been tightening for much longer than that. And indeed, Wales has just come out of a 2-week-long lockdown. Restrictions have been tighter in Scotland for quite some time. And actually, these economic growth figures really, when you consider everything that's happened since then, really feel like ancient history in economic terms. You're right to call out the prospect of a no-deal Brexit. People have been warning about that for some time. Of course, even the best-case scenario, there being a deal, will involve some level of economic pain once again, at least in the short term, as new barriers to trade are erected, hopefully just at the ports, but at worst with tariffs on trade between here and the continent. But listen, let's talk a little bit about a positive that we've learned in the last few days, and that is that vaccine, the progress of the Pfizer vaccine that we've heard about in the last couple of days, the efficacy estimated at 90%. Of course, we still have to wait to get it distributed, get it out there, and to test its effectiveness in the real world. But even the Bank of England, the central bank here, has been speaking about this in the last few days, saying it is encouraging for the economy. But yes, we have to wonder just how much more damage is going to be done to the economy in the next couple of weeks and months before we can get a sense as to how quickly the repairs can begin.
Ty Genwright joining us there from London. Thank you.